Like Auguste Mariette, the Egyptologist and adventurer about whom I spoke in a previous video, Jean-François Champollion is one of the greatest Egyptologists in the world. It's thanks to him that we know how to read hieroglyphs today, and you will see it in this video. Also, he was an incredible person. Jean-François Champollion was born in Figeac in Lot on December 23, 1790. He was the last born of a family of 7 children. And as his parents, Jacques and Jeanne Champollion, struggled a little to raise their entire tribe, it was mainly his elder brother, Jacques Joseph, who later became an Egyptologist, who would sometimes replace his parents and take care of him. But everything changed in 1798, when little Jean-François was only 8 years old. Disappointed and upset for not having been selected to go to Egypt with the scholars of Bonaparte's campaign, Jacques Joseph left Figeac and moved to Grenoble, where he stopped studying Egyptology for a moment. His departure upset his younger brother, who became a troubled boy who hates school. Also, his grades show that he was really a bad pupil. Yes, one of the greatest French scientists was a bad pupil and did not like school. From Grenoble, his older brother convinced his parents to find another solution. Jean-François was withdrawn from school, and from then on, he studied at home with a private teacher. The latter gave him the same lessons that were taught at school, but decided to teach him Greek and Latin as well. And there a miracle occurred. He discovered with amazement that his young pupil was particularly gifted in language studies, but also in drawing. In 1801, Jacques Joseph's parents allowed him to take his little brother with him. And so, when he had just turned 11 years old, Jean-François Champollion, who could already read Latin and Greek, moved to Grenoble. His brother, amazed by his gift for languages, hired a new teacher, and by the age of 13, the young prodigy had already learned the basics of Hebrew, had begun to study Arabic, and was learning Syriac and Chaldean, 2 languages spoken in the ancient East. He also discovered a passion for archaeology and Egypt, thanks to his brother. At the age of 16, he wrote a letter to his parents announcing that he wanted to become an Egyptologist. At 17, he left Grenoble for Paris to study 3 new languages, in addition to the others he was studying. He was already learning Coptic, a language spoken in Egypt since the 3rd century, Amharic, an African language, and Persian, another ancient language of the East. Well, here is a summary of the languages he could read: French, Latin, Greek, Hebrew, Syriac, Chaldean, Coptic, Amharic, and Persian. Jean-François was not yet 18 years old, and he was already learning 9 languages in addition to French. In a letter he wrote to his older brother, he described his crazy schedule, and we learn that he studied all these languages not only in the morning and in the afternoon, but also during the evening. The issue is that they were not all taught in the same place, but in different schools, which forced him to move around a lot and to write to Jacques Joseph. I also wanted to take the Turkish course at Mr. Joubert's place, which is excellent, but as I was too tired to run around so much, and as it was exhausting, I postponed it until next year. Well, you will have understood Jean-François Champollion. He is a language fan and a real enthusiast. Not surprisingly, at the age of 18, he began to take an interest in hieroglyphs, which is the writing system of the ancient Egyptians that was still not readable at this time. Several scholars had already looked into the matter and managed to translate a few words here and there, but not to understand how hieroglyphs worked as a whole. Like these scholars, he began to take an interest in the Rosetta Stone, a huge stele on which the same text was written in three writings: Greek, hieroglyphs, and Demotic, another form of Egyptian writing that was not yet translated. At the age of 19, the young prodigy became a professor of history at the University of Grenoble, where he met his brother. Of course, he spent all his free time trying to decipher hieroglyphs. In 1822, at the age of 32, the whole world learned the great news. Jean-François Champollion has solved the mystery of the hieroglyphs and knew how to read them. After having spent a lot of time publishing his research and studying objects from various collections, Jean-François Champollion finally realized his second dream, which was to go to Egypt. When he arrived in the country of his dreams, he was 38 years old, and it had already been 6 years since he had discovered the mystery of hieroglyphs. For his expedition, he collaborated with Ippolito Rossellini, an Italian Egyptologist. Her mission consisted in studying the monuments of ancient Egypt and in buying objects that would then be sent to royal collections. They traveled all over the country studying the monuments and drawing hieroglyphs and drawings from the wall of temples and tombs. Of course, they could not bypass the Valley of the Kings, where at that time several tombs of pharaohs could already be visited. By the way, as the Valley of the Kings is a very isolated and difficult place to access, Jean-François Champollion and the members of his team made their mission easier by camping in the Valley of the Kings, and more precisely in the tomb of Ramses IV. Apparently, they were not afraid to run into the mummified ghost of a king. Here is what he wrote about it. Our caravan, consisting of donkeys and scholars, has thus established itself in the best and most magnificent lodging that it is possible to find in Egypt. It's King Ramses who welcomes us in his magnificent tomb, the second one that can be found on the right as we enter the valley of Biban el-Muluk. Biban el-Muluk is the name that modern Egyptians have given to the Valley of the Kings. At the end of his voyage in September, the Egyptologist was physically drained. He suffered from 3 serious diseases, gout, tuberculosis, and bilharzias, and would never manage to recover. He died in Paris in 1832 at the age of 42. If you enjoyed the story of the incredible person of Jean-François Champollion, there are 2 places in France that celebrate him. The beautiful town of Figeac in Lot, where you can see his birthplace and visit the great Museum of the Scriptures, where he is honored, and the Champollion Museum, his brother's former home, which has been refurbished as a museum and can be visited in Vif in Isere.